Welcome to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan.
I'm James.
And I'm Callum.
And tonight we're talking about Kevin Costner's underappreciated masterpiece, Waterworld.
Bow, bow, bow.
Specifically, we're going to be discussing the Ulysses Cut.
Yeah. So, Waterworld is a movie I've always loved. It gets a bad rap, but I like it a lot. It's one of the first Blu-rays I ever bought. It's just an awesome action movie. It's basically Mad Max on the sea.
It's more than an action movie. It's action, it's adventure, it's science fiction.
I've heard people refer to it as Moist Max.
Which seems...
It's appropriate.
You're fitting.
But yeah, so Waterworld originally was released in 1995. It's like a post-apocalyptic science fiction epic about a world where, because of climate change or some sort of environmental disaster, the whole earth is covered in water. And Kevin Costner plays a lone mariner who just sails around trading and stuff. And he runs into a woman and her little girl who has a tattoo that apparently is a secret map to dry land.
Which is a myth.
Yeah, and there are these pirates called smokers who...
they smoke a lot.
They smoke a lot, yeah. And they sail around and like pillage and...
There's marauders.
Yeah, and they want to get the girl and the mariner...
So they can build a golf course on dry land.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like the most 90s thing ever.
But basically, like, the movie came out and it didn't do very well. And it sort of became a joke, and people just, I guess, even if they hadn't seen it, assumed it was bad. I've always thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
It's an amazing movie.
And in the late 90s, there was an extended TV cut of the film, which added in the deleted scenes and so fleshed out some of the characters in the world a bit more. And people would like tape that on VHS and
splice it together.
Yeah, and what do you call it? Hand it around to their friends.
Like a bootleg copy.
Sort of, yeah. And then, but because it was a TV cut, some of the violence and stuff was cut out. And then there was a guy, I think in the early 2000s, who made like a fan cut called the Ulysses Cut, which is basically the extended TV cut with all the deleted scenes and all the stuff added back in, but it was uncensored like the theatrical version, so all the violence and stuff was put back in. And that for a long time was like
it's the holy grail.
Yeah, like the version that, like the definitive version that you had to bootleg. And just recently, Arrow, who is a really great company who like remasters and releases films on DVD and Blu-ray, they like fully remastered the film, the full Ulysses Cut version,
and it looks amazing.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
So it's a 4K scan. So it's like there'll be a 4K version eventually, I'm guessing.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but they
just because they scan in
4K
4K doesn't mean they'll release in 4K.
Yeah, and then they sort of put it back
scan
to
into
1080p
4K. So yeah, they scan the original negative into 4K, so it's like the best possible quality, and then they do whatever they need to do to it, and then master it on Blu-ray.
And I would just like to say that this specific Blu-ray quality is amazing.
Oh yeah,
the picture quality is like
it's fantastic.
It's really really
beautiful.
Good.
I mean, it helps that the film looks good already, like just cinematography wise and stuff. But yeah, the remaster they've done is fantastic. But this isn't necessarily the first time a fan cut has got like a official release, like a remaster release, but it's still a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, that he's hoping we get a Harmy's official release for Star Wars.
Despecialized, and hopefully, that's the goal.
Bundle it in with Solo, can boost up their Blu-ray sales.
Yeah, I would buy it and then throw out the Solo disc.
I'd like to see a few of Topher Grace's
Look,
cuts.
I'm sick of that guy because he keeps talking about his cuts and how he shows them to his friends. He's never released them, so they're probably. Everyone's got different opinions, but they're probably not that great. So
I still wanna see him.
until he releases them, he can shut up.
Fair call.
yeah,
I'm acting like he goes around talking about it. I don't think he goes around talking about it all the time.
I think he mentions it once, and people don't let it die.
Yeah, you probably mentioned it once. And then
He's probably like so embarrassed and
Yeah.
he feels so bad about talking about it. Everyone's just like Topher Grace and his fan cuts over here.
He's like, now everyone thinks I'm Eric Foreman forever. No, I'll never live that down.
And then when we're talking about him when he's not Eric Foreman, we're just bagging him because of his fan cuts. He can't win, man.
He can't win. He was pretty good in Black Klansman, though.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
You know that movie was so stressful. What movie did he make a fan cut of?
The Hobbit?
The Hobbit. That's it. Speaking.
Who?
Yeah, he had a
Topher
really
Grace.
tough time filming Black Klansman because he didn't want to be
David
racist, David Duke. So during filming, he would relieve stress by recutting the Hobbit trilogy into one movie.
I've seen a fan. It's probably not his fan edit, but the fan edit of The Hobbit making it one movie. It's still bad, but it's a lot better than the trilogy.
Okay, so yeah, this is a popular fan edit.
Yeah,
that
so
has
the
finally
Ulysses
made its way
Cut
into production.
Exactly, and the Ulysses Cut was released recently on Blu-ray, and I bought it like day one. Was so excited. Luckily, it came in the mail just yesterday, so that we could watch it for the show because we didn't necessarily know what we were going to watch this week. So I was like, well, we kind of have to watch this and talk about it because it's a movie with a lot of history. It's a movie I love, and I've never seen this version, and so I was excited. I guess we should talk about some of the history behind it. So it's directed by Kevin Reynolds, who was coming off Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, with also starring Kevin Costner, and obviously Kevin Costner stars in the film, and this is like mid-90s, so this is like peak Kevin Costner. He's like one of the biggest stars. And the movie was sort of plagued by like production troubles. Obviously, filming on
Open water.
They filmed it like off the coast of Hawaii, like in open water, so that like it's a legit.
That's what's so crazy about this movie. It's not green screens.
Oh yeah,
It's legit.
It's
They
one of the-
built things in water. It's crazy.
One of the reasons I love it so much is because it's 90% practical. Like they just built stuff on the ocean and then just filmed it. It's incredible. You never see that stuff anymore. But of course, when you do that, you come into a lot of problems. Like there was like a multi-million-dollar set was destroyed during a hurricane. Apparently, things like sets built on water kept drifting, so like it would keep ruining shots. The filming constantly had to shut down because of hurricane warnings. Several actors nearly drowned. Kevin Costner nearly died. And so then there was like Costner, who's this big hotshot Hollywood star. There was some like hostility between him and the crew.
Well, on that note, this is on the IMDb trivia page. It says, it is rumored that director Kevin Reynolds and Kevin Costner had a huge squabble over the film, resulting in Reynolds walking off the project, leaving Costner to finish it. Reynolds was quoted as saying that Costner should only star in movies that he directs. That way, he can work with his favourite actor and his favourite director.
Yeah.
So, a little bit of shade.
And I think, I don't know if Reynolds who said it, but Costner was like backseat driving, directing. Like he kept trying to direct the film under Kevin Reynolds. And yeah, towards the end of filming, or at least even in the post-production stage, Reynolds was like, I had enough of this crap. And Costner sort of took over the film and like edited it the way he wanted it.
Joss Whedon flew out to do last-minute rewrites and described it as 7 weeks of hell.
Yeah. So
like they didn't have a good time making this movie.
There's obviously like a lot of trouble making it, and during production they got a lot of negative press even before the movie had even come out, because controversy sells. Saying this movie is a disaster is going to sell your magazines, is going to sell your newspapers. So before the movie had even come out, they were already getting trashed in the media. The movie was also the most expensive film ever made at that point. So it was originally supposed to cost around $100 million, and it's estimated that it cost about $175 million at the end of it all.
And keep
plus
in mind,
marketing,
keep inflation in mind as well.
Yeah, I mean this is mid-90s money, so and yeah, plus marketing and all that stuff, it's probably over $200 million. There's even that Simpsons joke where Bart's playing the Waterworld arcade game, and you take 2 steps, and then it says "Game over. Please insert more quarters," and you have to keep feeding money into it until it plays again. So like, yeah, like people were already kind of set against the movie, thought it was a disaster, and then it came out, and it didn't do terribly. It just didn't do very well. So a lot of the reviews were mixed. It wasn't the massive success it needed to be, especially with the budget and like it being a big blockbuster action movie. And they nicknamed it Kevin's Gate after the famous flop Heaven's Gate. So I mean that's kind of like what was happening around the time.
It's also worth noting that a lot of the hostility between Kevin Costner and the crew allegedly came from the fact that he lived on a villa and they had to just like make do.
Yeah, they're like living in like small apartments, and he's like, he's got like a maid and a chef, and I mean that sounds pretty typical Hollywood star stuff. But yeah, like when you've got a movie this big with this much trouble going on, and you've got hostility between, the big main star, and it's all comes together. Yeah, like that's kind of like what people were feeling at the time. Over time, like it's kind of got a cult following, but mostly, like a lot of people like to do, if they hear a movie's bad, they'll either not see it or they'll jump on the bandwagon and say this movie sucks, it's so dumb. Especially if they don't like the premise. It's just like, oh well, that movie's, of course that's gonna suck. I've always loved it, like I said.
It's a fun movie. It's a really good movie.
Yeah. When I went to Singapore, I went to Universal Studios and I saw the live Waterworld stunt show. So good. It's still running apparently in like all the different Universal Studios. So that stuff was cool.
Look, the movie didn't jump the shark.
That doesn't make too much sense.
There are sharks in the movie. I mean,
what do you want me to do? That's pretty terrible.
Nah, we're just going to move over that. Yeah. That's not. I'm not going to validate.
Can I say that was only half a joke. The film sounds ridiculous when we talk about it, but honestly, it pulls it off pretty well.
Yeah.
The premise is when you think about a world of. So the world in this, it's not like New York was just got flooded and people are like, well, now I'm a New Yorker and New York's flooded. So it's post-apocalyptic in the sense that civilization has forgot what came before.
Yeah, it's set like a few hundred years after the whole world has been submerged in water. There's no land or anything like that. So people don't know. They just think the world is made of water.
Yeah, so
they don't know of a time that wasn't the water world.
So it's like a really interesting mix of pirate, high seas adventure and dystopia all at once. So again, it doesn't jump the shark, and I'm not saying that as a pun, because not too many movies can pull off a mix of genres that's so difficult. Either of these genres can fail spectacularly.
I mean, yeah, I think what's so great about it is that it's a swashbuckling pirate movie adventure. Also, it's a post-apocalyptic sci-fi, steampunk.
Yeah, see, you're listing off all these genres.
And it's also like a western with like a lone anti-hero.
Any two of those genres can fail.
Yeah, exactly. But it works so well.
Last night when we watched it, we were discussing the fact that if you just change a few of the details, it could easily have been the best way they could have rebooted Star Wars.
Oh, man, I mean, we can have a whole like hour-long conversation just about that. But the new Star Wars movies are so bad because they completely misunderstand what Star Wars is, and on top of that, they're poorly written, poorly directed, etc. And really, all they have to do with the new Star Wars movies is take a older, better movie and put in Star Wars characters and put a Star Wars painted coat over it, and they'll have a good film. And we were joking about this movie where it's like if you make...
Turn the Mariner into old Luke.
For instance, if you wanted to make The Last Jedi good, you make the Mariner into a grizzled older Luke who's searching for something, going around to different planets. You make the little girl Enola Ray or something like that.
Some little Force-sensitive girl that everybody wants to capture because the Force is dead or something.
Yeah, and instead of the smokers, you've got bounty hunters, or you've got some sort of version of the First Order. You know, so it writes itself. It's already a much better movie. But I guess we'll start talking about the movie and why we like it so much and why it's so good. But also we'll mention that we're going to do full spoilers.
Yeah.
But
it's an older movie.
It's a 20-year-old movie.
Yeah,
it's 25 years.
And also, I recommend everyone go out and watch it. It's a bit cheesy, but that's kind of why it's good.
It's good. No,
the practical effects are insanely good.
Yeah,
and you just don't see stunts and action like this in films anymore.
You don't see sets like this anymore.
Exactly.
There's a couple of bad CG scenes, but they couldn't be helped.
But
like
they're so small. Yeah,
it's not an issue. 95% of the movie is just giant, beautiful practical sets.
And unlike locations, which are just beautiful. But unlike a lot of movies now, where it's like they have bad CGI, but so much of it, and they linger on it, and they keep showing it, and it's just. This movie, it's like, it's got a couple of bad CGI bits, but it's like one shot, and then you move on because they know it looks bad. They know they didn't, That's it.
All the CG budget went to Kevin Costner's hairline.
Well, apparently, I don't know. I don't know what exactly that means because that would have been hard at the time, very hard at the time.
Yeah,
I don't even know if that's even possible.
No, that's mentioned in the trivia that a significant portion. Rumoured, I will say. A significant portion of the visual effects budget is rumoured to have gone into digitally restoring Kevin Costner's hairline.
My theory is that he had a hairpiece, and then when he saw the dailies and saw what his hair looked like, he wasn't happy with it, but they couldn't reshoot it all. So in a couple of shots, he was probably like to the digital team, fix that. Also, I feel like a lot of this probably isn't true.
Oh, there's probably a lot of rumour and bullshit going around.
It's part of that whole negative press thing that we were talking about.
Now, can we start off this review by me asking you a question?
Yeah.
Why did people hate it so much? Like, what about this film caused critics to say no?
It's, like I said, a lot of it's because the negative press before the film even came out. So people, already either didn't bother seeing it or they saw it and were just like, it was fine, The director, Kevin Reynolds, said that one of the things that hurt him the most was that one reviewer, his review was basically, it didn't suck as bad as I thought it did. And and basically saying, I thought it was going to be this huge disaster and I was set against it, but it wasn't as bad. And so, I think that's kind of what started the negative reception was people were already set against it before even seeing it. Then on top of that, I feel like the movie, it can be a little, what's the word? Weird, but for me in a good way.
Definitely. It's not mainstream.
Yeah, the Mariner is a very cold character.
He's not sympathetic.
He's an anti-hero.
Even the Deacon is a little odd for a bad guy in just the costume design.
Yeah. But I mean, people have seen, it's basically Mad Max, people have seen that kind of post-apocalyptic style before. I think a lot of critics at the time were like, it looks good, but the story and the characters aren't that good.
And having said all this, we're coming from a position of only having seen the Ulysses Cut.
Well, I've seen the theatrical version countless times, and I never had a problem with it. A lot of people complain it doesn't make sense, it's dumb, it's boring, this, that, the other. Yeah, it's got a couple of plot holes. Other than that, it's fine. It makes perfect sense. I've always enjoyed it.
As long as you can follow along.
The spectacle and the practical effects and the action and the stunts are definitely the standout.
They'll hold up for the next 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years.
But even then, I've always enjoyed the characters. The cast is fantastic. I love the language of the film, the way people talk, the slang. I love the world building. I enjoy the simple, treasure hunt of the plot. I love it so much. The Ulysses Cut now, of course, adds in more of the world and character building, and just makes it even better. And as you were saying, Nathan, when we watched the movie, the slow pacing kind of helps the movie. It's like an epic journey across the oceans.
I haven't seen any other cut other than the Ulysses Cut, but I was trying to think what scenes would I remove, and there aren't any scenes I can think of that I feel were wasted. So I watched this movie and I'm like, I kind of feel like something would be missing from other cuts if I watched it.
This is definitely the definitive version of the film. If you can see the Ulysses Cut, definitely that's the definitive version, and that's the version that fully, it gives the full version of the story. But if you can only see the theatrical version, it's still a lot of fun.
I think the theatrical version should be on Netflix at the moment. So if you're interested,
it might be.
get
Yeah.
it quick.
If it is, watch it.
Also, what you were saying before, like, I really did enjoy the pace of this movie. I thought the Ulysses Cut had good pacing. It had the slow moments and the sort of character moments and the world building that I really enjoy of a movie.
Yeah.
But it still had all this great action adventure in it. It's like you said, it's like a sweeping epic.
It's also like I keep saying, they don't make movies like this anymore. Not just because of the practical effects and the stunts, but also because there are large chunks of the movie where the character's just sitting on a boat talking and just sailing.
Or throwing tantrums over crayons.
Yeah.
Oh, no wonder this movie got bombed. It sounds so boring.
That's probably the thing. Probably people just thought it was boring.
I'm only joking. I love it.
No, but you're right. That's probably people's view. It's like, they're sailing.
But that's
boring.
good for us. Like, I like that.
And I mean, that's not to say the movie's action-packed. Like, it's an action movie.
Look, I think that the reason this film is now considered a cult classic is because it does hold up in the world building and the practical. Look, we don't see anything remotely like the practical sets.
Let's start talking about the sets.
Yeah.
Oh, I read in the trivia, I don't know if this is true or not, but designing some of these sets, they used all of the steel available in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And
they
then
had
when
to
they
start
requested
shipping
more,
in material.
from
Yeah, so-
California.
Yeah.
That gives you an indication of just how large the
They built floating cities, man.
The floating city that's like the centerpiece of the first like quarter or third of the film, the atoll was like literally a floating set, like a giant like life-size
mini city.
township mini city that actually floated on the ocean. And when they needed to get shots of it in the middle of the ocean, they actually towed it out into the middle of the ocean and shot it. And then when they only had to do shots from like inside from one angle, they towed it back in towards the shore. Apparently the atoll set weighed 1,000 tons and measured a quarter mile in circumference.
That's crazy.
It's huge.
Imagine being an extra and just like sitting around or walking around on this set.
Like it's like it's like all metal construction. Like it's a fully built like little township, and like people walk around because the mariner's boat, the trimaran kind of thing the racing boat thing that he has, the scales had to match. So you couldn't have his boat pull into a township and the boat overshadows the township. So they literally had to make, because the boat's huge.
They didn't just
so
make
they
a
had
mini.
to make it's not a model, like it's a fully like city.
It's legit.
Yeah, it's amazing. And just the shots of it, like the helicopter shots of it overhead, it's just beautiful.
Do you know what they did with it after the movie? Because they should have kept that at like Universal or something and have it displayed.
Yeah, I think they kept it and then it was repurposed for something else and then it got scrapped or something. Yeah,
they could have had paid tours, you know.
Oh man, like they should have taken it to Universal Studios in, I think there's one in LA, and put on display. But then there's like also the costume design, which is
remarkable.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
like because it's set in a world where like everything, all the materials are basically stuff you find floating in the ocean.
So it's all scrap metal.
It's just scraps and like
flotsam, jetsam.
Yeah, like a fishing net and shark skin. Like
and bits of plastic.
I like the drifter has like what do you call the plastic rings you get off like the
tabs.
beer cans?
The tabs.
No, not those. Yeah, so there's the Nord who's the smoker. He has the necklace made of the Coke can tabs.
Like the sort of the slab plastic.
Yeah, then there's the drifter who has the plastic rings that you get on the beer cans or used to get.
Yeah.
And as like shoulder pads on his thing. Like it's crazy, like the amount of detail. And there are a lot of people in these scenes as well. Like, I don't know, 100 people maybe, would you say, at least?
Yeah, at least.
And they're all fully costumed in these things. They're all like made up to look dirty and made up to look sunburnt.
Yeah, made up.
And
well, yeah, then they probably also got sunburnt for real.
They got sunburnt for real. But also, another thing I liked about the sets and the production design was that they had a lot of little gadgets that sort of worked Like, for instance, with the water at the bar, they had all these little contraptions going on.
Like all the steampunk kind of cool things. I like the very start of the movie where the mariner like pees in a cup and like puts it in the filter, and it goes through all these jars and tubes, and then it distills it into fresh water.
Like, that's really cool.
It's really cool, but also like it's because it's in the first scene because it sets the tone for the film, where it's like this is a world covered in water and not a drop to drink.
Exactly.
Like, it's a harsh post-apocalyptic world.
And there's one of these character scenes where you hear the mariner using some technology that he's found, listening to like a Miles Davis CD. It's powered by a little wind turbine.
Yeah.
It's like he has to generate the electricity somehow.
Yeah,
it's like
that was
little,
cool.
tiny little turbine, like powering this CD player.
And in the atoll they have like windmills that they can power lights with. It's really cool. I also like the contraption he uses when he's diving underwater, and it's like they look like ball bearings, but I think they're supposed to be like dried fish eggs, and it's like an hourglass or like a sand timer where it drops down, and when it gets heavy enough, it activates the contraption and it pulls him back up from the ocean. I thought that was cool. Yeah, like all that stuff. Like his boat's really cool. It's got like this wind turbine thing in the middle and these like sails, and they actually like built that. It's really cool. All the sailing stuff's really cool. I like there's a bit where the smokers are coming at him and they like put out a net.
Yeah, and they have to wait to the side.
Yeah, and like to sort of avoid getting caught up in the net, the mariner like gets everyone to go on the side of the boat, and so they can weigh it up, and like they like
avoid the net.
Yeah, they like
sort of the boat tilts upwards. Into the so they go closer to the water. The boat tilts sideways, so they avoid.
Kevin
the net.
Costner's like hanging off the side of the boat, and he's
that's
like
not
flying
CG.
up.
Dude's really hanging there.
Like the stunts are crazy, and like Kevin Costner did a lot of his own stunts, and it's like really cool. The action in this movie's insane because like it's all practical. Like there's actual stunt guys like flying everywhere, and
that's how you can tell it still holds up today.
It's physical. It's like, you know, in modern movies today, Mission Impossible's accepted. And I guess maybe some of the other ones. I don't know about Fast and Furious. I don't know about the driving stunts. I don't know. But in most of the modern blockbusters, a lot of the stunts are just CGI. It's done in front of a green screen in a studio somewhere.
I think that's a good descriptor for the movie. It's very physical.
Exactly. It's tangible. Like, you feel like you're in that world.
It's because they built it.
Yeah, they built it, and it feels inhabited. The people and the costumes and the sets. And, I mean, it just feels real. And when someone, when a jet ski or whatever jumps off a ramp and crashes into something, like, it's a real thing. Like the bit at the end of the movie where the plane's coming down and the mariner hooks the landing gear and it like rips off the plane, and then the plane smashes down on its underbelly and scrapes along. Like they actually did that.
That's crazy.
Like that plane, like the pilot just flew around and like ripped off his landing gear and then slid to a stop. Like, you don't see that in movies.
That wouldn't be
anymore.
allowed.
It's incredible.
That wouldn't be allowed today.
It's insane. Like, and it's disappointing because these are the action movies that stay with people and that people love, and yet all we're getting are PG-13 kids movies, which are all CGI.
There is the Mission Impossible movies, but that's not going to last forever.
Yeah, but even that's an exception.
Yeah, I mean, that's
like you said, accepting
that's because Tom Cruise is crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. If it wasn't for Tom Cruise, those movies would probably also be a lot of CGI crap. So
yeah, that's true.
Like, you don't see the action movies like you did in the 90s. It also helps that the cinematography is done by Dean Semler, who did the cinematography for Mad Max 2. So it's like you get the Mad Max guy to shoot Mad Max on water, like, of course. And the movie looks fantastic. Like, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Especially because all the trouble that they would have had to have gone through, especially in the middle of the ocean, where you also think about the logistics of it. They'd have to, like, you'd have to have, like, a boat for catering, a boat for costumes, a boat for makeup, a boat for this, a boat for that. So you'd have like 20, 30 boats.
A toilet boat.
Yeah, exactly. So you'd have 20 or 30 boats that have to go out to the middle of the sea just to get one or two shots and then pack it up. Got to go home.
That's crazy.
Like, it's insane. And the fact that they pulled it off, Like,
Just
sometimes a movie goes through all this trouble and it's still bad. And sometimes it goes through all this trouble and it comes out and it's good. And in this case, people thought it was bad because of the trouble.
But it was good.
But, it's just incredible, and it's just a great film. But also, the logistical mountain that they overcame is not why the movie's great. The movie's great because it's well shot, it's well acted, it's well written, it's fun, it's funny. You know what I mean?
It's a perfect Star Wars movie. We discussed this last night.
It's a swashbuckling action adventure.
back to if you don't mind me jumping in here. Back to the set design. Did they actually construct the smokers' headquarters ship, or is that just kind of fakery?
So the deck was like a plywood wooden platform that looks like the top of a deck of a ship, and they actually built that like in a abandoned parking lot or something. So it's like a full size wooden set, and then of course they paint it to look like a rusting metal. And then the interior of the ship were sets.
Oh, okay.
You know, so like
the external part with the water outside the ship was just kind
of. And
like...
then that when you see the ship from the side, like sailing in the water, that's like a really big model.
Oh, okay. That's still cool.
Like a 20-foot model or something.
That's still cool.
Yeah, like it all looks pretty good.
Yeah.
There's some like dodgy compositing and a couple of dodgy CGI shots, but otherwise, like,
that's
looks fantastic.
forgivable. Yeah,
that's another thing and then they don't do that in movies anymore. The whole thing would just be green screen and CGI, and you can tell.
Build me a model.
Exactly, like Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve are really the only guys kind of still like doing model effects and stuff like that.
And it shows.
Looks, yeah.
And that's why their movies are like above everyone else.
Because you can tell CG, man. Like, I don't care how good your CG is.
Even if it's good CGI, it's still like, oh, that looks all right for CGI.
Are you listening, James Cameron?
Yeah, and this is why I'm not seeing Avatar 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever they're making. I do not care.
Being filmed back to back, that's how you know they've got integrity.
Disgusting.
They got integrity. But it's like, yeah, with
this
models...
movie also predates Titanic. So just putting it out there, the effects were pre-Titanic.
Yeah.
Effects.
That's the thing, like, models hold up. Like, if you build me a good model, it could almost just pass as being the real thing.
Look at Blade Runner.
Yeah.
I mean, the Blade Runner special effects still blow my mind.
Yeah,
and I've seen pictures of the models countless times. And I could go see that in the movies and I'll still be like, how did they do that?
It's that tangible quality. You can feel it. It's real.
Actually, on that sort of topic, which movie came first for outstanding set design, Waterworld or the Mario Brothers movie?
Okay, so Super Mario Brothers movie came out in 93 and Waterworld came out in 95.
But what was in production first?
Well, it would have been Super Mario Brothers because that came out 2 years before, so assumedly they were filming at least a year before release.
So that's another movie that probably got a lot of hate, but the sets are
great, right? And also Dean Semler, who did the cinematography for Mad Max and Waterworld, also did the cinematography for Super Mario Brothers movie, which is why they look...
Here's the key.
Which is why they have that really cool like post-apocalyptic
He has a good
look.
nose for movies.
And they share an actor, right?
Dennis Hopper's the bad guy in both. Which now we should talk about the cast because it's incredible. And Dennis Hopper is just so good at being a villain. Especially
so good.
The 90s was like peak crazy villain Dennis Hopper. He had like Speed, Super Mario Brothers, and Waterworld, and he's just like over the top and like giving all these speeches, and it's so cool. He's got like
I do like his name as well.
The Deacon.
It's so post-apocalyptic.
He's like the leader of the smokers, who are these pirates who...
Chimney
so
smoke.
good.
They live... Another thing about this movie they could not get away with today, all of the smoking.
Oh, yeah.
And like you see the brand of cigarettes and everything. It's
when he tries to give Enola, the little girl, a cigarette, and he's just like, it's never too young to start. Like
so
even though it's a joke and he's a bad guy, you probably wouldn't get away with that now.
My assumption is that their knowledge of the damage that smoking does was lost with the flood.
Oh,
so
on one hand, yes, but on the other hand, their doctor. The smoker's doctor has an oxygen tank, and he's also smoking. Assumedly, they've been around long enough that, you know, a few
People
of them
know,
have started to, so it's not like, but
Still such a cool name for a bad guy, though.
The Deacon, yeah. And I like how the Ulysses Cut helps with, like, fleshing out the smokers and, like, their quote-unquote religion.
I kind of feel sympathetic.
Their greedy ideology, which is
Don't
really
you kind
cool.
of feel sympathetic for them, though? Like, yeah, they're
Not
the bad guys,
really.
but, man, they have a hard life.
Yeah,
Granted,
but
it's one they probably asked for.
They're also they're pirates, so they go to everything they own has been stolen from somewhere else. Like, they don't really create their own resources or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you see the atoll at the beginning of the film. I
forgot all the murdering they did.
Yeah, they have the atoll has a community. They have a garden. They have like a trade kind of thing going on.
Can we talk about how great the idea? Sorry to interrupt.
No,
just trigger my mind. How great the idea is that the citrus fruits are like a very good commodity in the world, because you don't even think about it, but that's how it would be. Like the
scurvy.
like lime, lemons. These are all tradable commodities in Waterworld because they keep you healthy.
Yeah. Also, like we said, it takes place in a world covered by the ocean, so there's no fresh water and there's no dirt to plant things in. So dirt and fresh water are like the top.
That's like the gold and the oil of Waterworld.
Exactly. So I like at the start of the movie where to get into the atoll, because they're not going to let the mariner in, and to get in, he shows them he's got a jar of dirt. And they're like, oh my God.
Primo dirt.
Yeah, primo. I like how the guy tastes it, and he's like, pure dirt. I've never seen it so pure. And everyone's like, wow, dirt. And then they have hydro, which is like filtered fresh water for drinking and stuff. And like that's like...
That's a pretty good commodity.
That's like their oil. It's like the most important thing as well. So that's really cool. And the smokers who live on a petrol tanker or an oil tanker, they just use all that oil to power jet skis and boats. So they're more technologically advanced, but
they don't have a support system.
They're also going like.
They're raiding for survival.
Yeah, exactly. They're
there's no renewables.
Yeah, exactly. They're like eating through their resources so quickly that they can't sustain themselves, so they have to go out and.
You know what this reminds me of?
Yeah.
Do you remember that movie we saw not too long ago about the cities that attacked each other?
Oh yeah, Mortal Engines.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Mortal Engines when we talk about it that way.
Yeah, now you just got me disappointed that Mortal Engines wasn't a better movie because it had a good premise.
I'm sorry about that. I was just like, there's a lot of...
That premise is interesting. It's like, what would happen if the world ended? You'd have this faction, you'd have this resources, this, that, and the other. And of course, there's like an environmental message with global warming or climate change
which
or whatever.
Which is more important now than ever.
Which is more relevant now than it was at the time. And that's not... The movie's not particularly...
It's not about climate
change.
That,
but it's there.
But the movie's world is a consequence of an environmental disaster like climate change.
Yeah.
That's probably the most accurate reading of the cause. But also, all the shots of the moon are really close-up shots.
Well, see, I thought that was just... Because it's a movie, and it's like, if you're going to be set on the ocean, of course the moon's going to be big and beautiful. But you were, like, Callum theorised that's
probably a wrong reading.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, if the moon is really massive, maybe the moon had an effect on the tides.
According to the IMDb trivia, which I'm not sure if it's true, there was an early draft where there were two moons in the sky. And that sort of... somehow that happened, I don't know how, and that changed the gravity. I think the idea is that just that the global, like the ice caps melted. Of course, if all the ice caps melted, they wouldn't cover the whole world in water, so that doesn't make sense. But also, it doesn't really matter.
It's just like fantasy.
It's like the reason why the world ended is not important. It's just you have to know that now it's covered in water.
Yeah.
So now go. If you can't get over that, don't watch the movie. Just the way you wouldn't watch any movie if you can't get over the central conceit. Yeah, but I think we were talking about Dennis Hopper because he's so good. It's so creepy. He's got like the missing eye, and it's so good.
And I love the eye patch has kind of like. Does he have? Is it the one eye patch he has the whole time?
No. The first eye patch he's got is goggles, and they're just tilted to the side, so one goggle is blacked out and covers his eye, and the other goggle's like up on his head. And then at the end, he gets like a actual eye patch, which
and it looks really cool. Yeah.
And he's got that cool like
the robe.
Is it like a? It's like an admiral's old uniform with like medals on it, but all the medals are like melted and dirty.
Yeah,
it's on like, so it's like one solid. It's really cool. The costume design's insanely good.
I mean, I would have preferred Dennis Hopper to have like a diamond eye patch, like Slick Rick or something.
No, that wouldn't make any sense.
No, but he could have.
Where
like
would they get diamonds from?
No, but he could have found Slick Rick's like eye patch and have
That's
like
very 90s of you.
and have like a vinyl or something of Slick Rick and be like, oh look,
that would
just like
they might call him the Slick. See,
and Slick's oil.
Captain
I guess
Slick.
it's not
oil Slick.
I guess it's not a perfect movie after all.
But yeah,
the characters. So the main characters. How about we talk about Kevin Costner's character?
Yeah, Kevin Costner, the mariner, who's like this. He's basically Mad Max. He's a lone drifter. He sails around, salvaging and trading. He likes being alone.
And he doesn't fit in with society.
Doesn't fit in with people. When he gets to the atoll, he tells them he's been at sea for about 15 months, which is just insanely long. Like, he feels at home on the sea. And you find out later that he's like a mutation. Like, he has gills behind his ears and he can breathe
for some level of time underwater. It's not clear.
It's never established,
exactly sort of.
And he has like webbed feet and he can swim really well. And he, of course, everyone thinks he's this horrible abomination.
But I mean, it's not that bad. Like, obviously, this is sort of one of the surprises in the movie, but I don't see why it's such a big deal to people because they wouldn't know unless they look behind his genetic.
That's why
genetic purity.
I mean, there's
also a lot of inbreeding going on.
Yeah,
so they're not that pure.
So that's the thing is like when he gets there, there's a family who offers their daughter to him for breeding because of all the inbreeding. Like they're just glad to see a man who's from outside the community. So I like that world building where it's like, you have to sort of keep going, and there are, because the atoll can only hold a certain amount of people.
They can't
like you can't
join the atoll unless someone dies.
Yeah, and so that's really cool. And then they find out that he's a mutant, and yeah, like Callum said, like they don't want to.
Not because they're racist, but I think that
I don't know, man. There's slight racism
They're fish racists.
Yeah, fish racists. That's
against the fish people.
That's right.
But
of which there is only one.
Man.
Yeah. And yeah, he's also the mariner's also like the only one of his kind that he knows of.
We should point out that if we had to sum up this movie in one phrase, it's Kevin Costner's journey from being a merboy to a merman. I'm sorry to just interrupt that, but I forgot that was a line we came up with.
Yeah. Yeah, we're sailing away at the end. He's like, now I'm a merman. Yeah, but that's all really cool. What else? I was going to say something.
The girl's pretty good.
About Kevin Costner's character?
Yeah.
And his journey? We were talking about the mariner as a character.
Yeah.
I like the idea that he does his trading by like going really deep to the sort of remnants of the old society.
Yeah, so he like scavenges stuff from the bottom of the ocean, which is like sunken cities,
and he's like the only dude that could do it.
And no one else knows that the cities exist. Like they think,
can't go deep enough.
Exactly, they don't know that the world was destroyed and covered by water. They think the world is water.
And that's another thing that I like about this movie is like he is the only keeper of this mystery.
Yeah,
for most of the movie.
I like the mystery, and I think I also mentioned at the start of the show. I like the central mystery of the tattoo on the little girl's back.
Yeah, like
although we don't approve of little girls getting tattoos, it's not
but
it serves the purpose of the story.
It's a good old-fashioned quest movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what does the map mean? You know. That's what I was going to say. Old Gregor, the old man.
Oh yeah.
He accepts the mariner's mutation. The mariner also doesn't have a name for most of the movie. They just call him the mariner because he's like a lone drifter that he doesn't need a name. And Gregor, who's like an old inventor who lives on the atoll, he accepts the mariner having gills and stuff because he thinks like that's the next step in evolution. It's like, well, the world is water, so of course people are going to start breeding.
That also
being born with gills and stuff.
And that has some basis in real life too, because there are certain South Asian or Pacific communities where they can hold their breath underwater for a lot longer than we could. That is true. There's certain communities in the Pacific where the children are a lot more effective at swimming, and
I've heard that African tribesmen can withstand a lot more pain than regular.
Although that could have
city.
That could have more to the fact that we don't know what pain is.
Well, yeah, exactly, and I think that's kind of the thing is they experience it more, so they have more of a resistance to it and stuff.
The only pain we know is Star Wars.
Oh God, that's the most first world privileged thing ever. That my deepest pain is
Rian Johnson.
That Star Wars is ruined. But yeah, Gregor, Michael Jeter is just genius. He's one of the all-time great character actors. He's just fantastic in the movie, and he's just a delight to watch. But Jean Triplehorn, who plays Helen, she's fantastic. I love seeing her in movies. Would like to see more of her in movies. And she's kind of Gregor's friend, and kind of she runs the store on the atoll, and she looks after Enola, which is a little girl played by Tina Majorino, who's also really good. And Enola was found as a baby drifting along in a basket in the ocean with the tattoo on her back, and no one knows what it means, but there were rumors that it's a map to dry land, and Gregor sort of is trying to decipher it, but he can't. And then the mariner comes, and Helen's like, well, you know where dry land is, you have dirt, you have to help us.
The one problem I have with the film, in terms of the plot, is the little girl, Enola. She's, for lack of a better term, she's a white girl, a little white girl. Now, she has Chinese characters tattooed onto her back.
Yeah.
And the big reveal at the end is that the tattoos on her back are actually coordinate locations which lead to Mount Everest.
Yeah, the highest peak, which is the only piece of land still sticking out.
So the question I have is, why would they choose something so obscure when, since it's post-apocalyptic, they could just have numbers, and then the crazy... what's his name? Gregor could just be like, where have I seen those numbers? I can't remember. And then one day he finds the charts. Do you know what I mean?
I guess,
why did they have to make it so...
Yeah,
what's the word I'm looking for? Convoluted.
I mean...
It's like the path of most resistance.
Yeah, it's I guess they could have made it... They didn't necessarily have to make it Chinese characters or kanji or whatever they are. They could have made it a similarly cryptic thing without having to... But
it serves its purpose.
Yeah, it serves its purpose because in this world it's set up that people seem to be able to read, even though there's not a lot of reading material.
No, look, if that's my problem...
they also seem to be able to decipher numbers.
That's a pretty good problem for it to be the only problem.
So it's you have to make it hard for them to decipher it, because otherwise the movie would never even begin.
Look, if I had to choose what's a tattoo on her back, it would have just been a code to be broken by some. Yeah, maybe it takes them a long time to break it. Or
because we don't really
Gregor
know.
Could be a code breaker.
We also don't really know when the world ended, so we don't know at some point. Those Asian characters could have been the most well known.
Yeah,
so it's possible that the reason they were her parents who knew they were dying and sent her out,
the reason they would have used that system of language
because they figured that's the most popular language.
And for a storytelling process, there has to be some level of obfuscation for the tattoo.
What I'm saying is,
so it's not just deciphered.
It could have just been code. It could have been maybe a series of numbers to be deciphered through a certain method, and then when this time, or when all the character stuff has been resolved, they're like, oh look, I cracked the code. Let's move on.
But like you said, if that's the only problem, it's doesn't really affect.
A quick addendum to what I was saying before about the sort of that mutation having a basis in nature already is the I'm not sure how to pronounce the tribe's name. The Bajau, Bajau people of Indonesia have 50% larger spleens than people outside their community, enabling them to free dive for depths of more than 200 feet and hold their breath for 13 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Good effort.
Almost as long as Tom Cruise.
Not quite. So it's like that sort of mutation already has a basis in nature, which makes it cool.
Yeah. We've only got a few minutes left. I'm just going to rattle through some of my notes. I like there's a scene where the mariner harpoons a plane and it's like wrapping around a tower. So cool, so well done. Like the practical elements are insane. The bit where the plane is towing the water skiers so they can jump off a ramp into the atoll.
Again, that was really cool.
Like they actually did that. But they couldn't get the plane to correctly tow the water skiers, so they had to get a helicopter to tow the water skiers along on the water, then have the plane actually fly in between the helicopter and the skiers, so it looks like it's towing the skiers. So it's all practical in camera.
Oh my god.
It's crazy, amazing. It's so good.
That sounds complicated.
I like the use of language in the film, like...
I like all the languages, and what you were saying before, Portuguese.
And I think when the mariner gets to the atoll, he asks what language he should use in French,
because French is the diplomatic language.
Yeah, so I like that. I also like the universal logo at the beginning. Obviously it's the Earth, and then it sort of starts the flooding, and the land gets engulfed by water. That's really cool, and then it zooms in, and then you're in the movie. That's really cool. I love the scene where the mariner teaches Enola to swim because she lives in Waterworld but she can't swim.
And he's been really cold to her before, so Mum thinks he just threw her in the ocean.
Yeah, but that's also because she's from land, and that's why the mariner starts to believe in that she's actually, because she likes drawing and she's drawing horses and trees, things that no one has ever seen. And so people start thinking she's been to dry land. And I love that because up to that point, like you said, the mariner has been really cold to them and has not been really wanting to bring them along. And towards, they kind of melt his icy heart. And at the end of the movie, he kind of befriends them. And I love those scenes. Cheesy underwater kiss scene where
I called this as slightly before it was happening.
Helen obviously can't hold her breath underwater, so he's like, I'll breathe for you. So he kisses her, giving her oxygen, but breathes through his gills. Good.
It's so cheesy, but it kind of had to happen.
I love it so much. Movies were better back then.
In the 90s.
I like how the smokers live on the oil tanker, which is revealed.
They're basically a symbol for vice.
And it's also revealed at the end that it's the Exxon Valdez, which was a famous oil tanker disaster, oil spill disaster that destroyed the environment. And I like how they pray to Saint Joe, who's the captain, Joe Hazelwood of the Exxon Valdez, which is funny. I love the rope swinging, the way the mariner... It's like a pirate movie. It's like what Star Wars should be.
Swashbuckling.
Just swashbuckling. He's swinging and he's working his boat, kicking levers and putting the sails down. It's so cool. And I love the end. The original ending of the theatrical version is lacking, and the Ulysses cut really fixes this, where you actually, at the end, they're overlooking the mariner leaving on the mountain, and they find the plaque that says it's the peak of Mount Everest, which wasn't in the theatrical version, which is insane.
That's...
why would you cut that out? That is so dumb.
Yeah, that's...
Out of all the things to cut out, that 1 second shot of the plaque...
That's kind of an important scene.
But also, where the cut gets its name is that Helen...
She gives a story about Ulysses.
Gives Mariner a name as a gift. And she calls him Ulysses because he's cursed to roam the seas. And it's just, the Ulysses cut just perfectly It's a definitive version of the film. It just perfectly brings it all together.
And it's long, but it doesn't feel that long. It feels right.
It's just people are so used to movies now moving rapid fire, but those movies, they forget what makes...
Sometimes a movie should be 3 hours.
They rapid fire past all the story and the characters.
This
which
is a movie which knows how to breathe.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
But also, like we said, it's an action movie. Like, there's heaps of great action and stunts.
It's got me wanting to go and watch its sort of, I guess, counterpart, The Postman.
Yes, which is also a movie I really like. It got a bad rap. It didn't do very well. It's also like a 3-hour post-apocalyptic movie starring Kevin Costner. It also got a really bad rap and people hate it. It's also a movie I own on Blu-ray and have seen and really enjoy it. So I think next week or in a couple of weeks, if we have time, we'll watch it and talk about it on the show. Because, they don't make movies like this anymore. Could you imagine a 3-hour post-apocalyptic epic with all practical effects made now? No, you can't.
Wouldn't happen.
Wouldn't exist. So we're out of time, but reboots are so hot right now. So maybe they could bring Kevin Costner. Bring Kevin Costner back for a Logan-esque.
Waterworld,
Cobra Kai-esque Waterworld.
The potential for them to ruin
they should never do it, and the CGI would ruin it. And
the fact that Cobra Kai alone was able to manage it really well as a TV show is like. But even that,
they had to do a lot. They had to do a lot less than than you'd have to than Waterworld or Star Wars would do. So
Waterworld 2, more water, more world.
The wetter, the better.
Yeah.
So we're out of time. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Rate, review, and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Tuesday Review AU.
It's Tuesday.
No. Wait. Before Nathan, seriously.
I'm not going to touch it.
I think this movie, The Waterworld, I love it so much, it's actually might have given us our sign-off. As Dennis Hopper, as the Deacon says, adios, cousins.
Oh, actually... I like that.
Adios, cousins.